Here follows Lesson 3 from William Walker Atkinson's The Arcane Teaching. Lesson 3 is the third lesson in Part 1 of the Arcane Teaching, Part 1 being called Fundamental Principles. Lesson 3 is called Infinity of Nothingness. Lesson 3. We now invite you to consider the correlative principle of truth, in which is set forth the infinity of nothingness, chaos, the unmanifest, from which, under the law, emerges everything, the cosmos, the manifest. We have informed you that the law is not a pantheistic being, either breaking itself into bits or parts in order to create universes. Neither does it imagine, mentally create, dream, or meditate into existence a false and fictitious universe all in its mind, as pseudo-occultism and pessimistic philosophies would have you believe. Listen to the aphorism. Aphorism 5. Other than the law, there is but infinity, which is nothingness. But in that infinity of nothingness, there is unmanifest, the latency, possibility, futurity, potentiality, and promise of manifest everythingness. It is the chaos from which, under the law, emerges the cosmos. It is the womb of the cosmos. That's aphorism 5. Now, postponing for the moment the consideration of the distinction between the absolute and infinity, which is uncommon in ordinary modern thought, we wish to call your attention to the fact that infinity is not designated as not, or as partaking of notness, but is spoken of as nothingness, which is a state of nothing. In the arcane teaching, the words nothing and nothingness signify no thing, or no thingness, respectively. This may seem like a metaphysical hair-splitting, but it isn't. Not having common words to express uncommon ideas, philosophers must needs split common words into shades of meaning and significance, or else remain silent with their thoughts and unexpressed. Now, in order to understand no thingness and a no thing, you must understand the meaning of the word thing, to which these words are opposed. A thing is, quote, whatever exists as a separate object of sense or thought, end quote, in the sense of being and having apparent qualities which can be thought of in terms of sense perception, such as size, shape, form, etc. Something connected directly or indirectly with physical appearance, something of the relative universe, something have a correspondence in experience. And nothingness must be the opposite of thingness. Therefore, the aphorism practically says that infinity is a latency. That is, no thing in reality, but yet has an existence of some kind, at least potentially. It can contain not actually apparent to the senses, not N-A-U-G-H-T. It can contain nothing actually apparent to the senses, or that can be experienced or sensed, not that can be thought of by the intellect, nor pictured in the imagination. In short, nothing that is capable of inducing a mental image in your mind. And yet it exists, if the word can be used, as a state or condition in which all is in latency, possibility, futurity, potentiality, and promise. In short, it is the unmanifest, containing all manifestation within it, latency, possibility, and futurity, awaiting the force of the law to bid it conceive, produce, and bring forth being. We shall learn about this infinite nothingness shortly. In connection, we shall learn about this infinite nothingness shortly, in connection with another aphorism. Enough for the present to realize the words of the aphorism before us, which informs us that other than the law there is not, with the exception of the infinity of nothingness which exists in latency. Other than the law there is not in the absolute sense. Now, philosophies and schools of metaphysics have generally confused the meaning of the two terms absolute and relative and have them used as identical in meaning. The arcane teaching makes a sharp distinction between the two terms, however, not a difference based upon a metaphysical hair-splitting tendency, but because there are two entirely different ideas which must be expressed in these two words, and in spite of the customs of the metaphysicians, the distinction must be made. We do not wish to lead you into an extended metaphysical discussion, but we think that you should be taught to make this important distinction in the true meaning of these terms. The term absolute, in its true sense and essential meaning, implies an apartness, a separation, an independence, a self-existence, self-sufficiency, supreme, unfettered, free. The essence of its meaning is to be found in the words free, independent, self-sufficient. And when used in connection with the word law, it represents the supreme power, depending upon no other power, its own sovereign, and the ruler of all else, without restriction. This conception we have in the absolute law, which is the independent, free, sovereign Lord of all. The term infinite has an entirely different meaning in its true sense, although the philosophers and metaphysicians often add to it the attributes of the absolute, which is a mistake. The word infinite, in its true sense and essential meaning, implies a state of boundlessness, limitlessness, not circumscribed as to time, space, variety, possibilities, combination, shape, form, etc. Its essence may be understood by referring to the words from which it sprung. In other words, the Latin words in, meaning not, and finitus, meaning finished. In short, the word infinite means not finished, not complete, capable of unlimited manifestation and possibilities. So you see, while the idea of absolute means fixed, complete, independent state or condition, infinite means a state of endless and unlimited possibilities of manifestation and expression. Now, the true philosophical idea of infinity consists of the conception of any sort of mental object as having the quality or quantity which cannot be exhausted by any succession of experiences, however prolonged or extended in time, space, variety, or number. By holding this idea in mind, you will never make the mistake of confounding infinity with absoluteness. The chief cause of the confusion arises from the unauthorized use of the term infinite in relation to power. Power belongs to the absolute and is not one of the attributes of infinity. Infinite power would mean an infinite possibility of the manifestation and expression of unlimited power, while absolute power means all the power there is, fixed, independent, and sovereign, unvarying and immutable, and not subject to changes of degree, etc. Absolute law is not an infinite capacity for expression of power. It is power in itself. All the great thinkers of all times, esoteric and exoteric, have agreed in this idea of the infinite being the unlimited possibility. The best of the ancient Greek philosophers, from Aristotle down, held to this idea. As Schopenhauer says, it is already a doctrine of Aristotle that infinity can never be actu, or actual, given, fixed, but only potentia. That is, in possibility, latency, promise, potentiality. And as Lewis says, Lewes says, If 0 is the sign of vanished quantity, the infinite is the sign of continuity. We trust that you now see that the absolute could never become relative or many, and that the infinite alone is capable of endless changes in shape, form, variety, in time, space, and number, and contains within itself the promise, the possibility, the latency, and potentiality of everything. The arcane teachers in the olden time illustrated this to their pupils by the following symbols. The figure 1, the figure, digit 1, standing for the absolute, and being fixed, independent, sovereign, and alone. By itself and in itself, it is incapable of multiplying or dividing. Multiplying anything by 1 or divide anything by 1, and the thing remains unchanged. Multiply or divide 1 by itself, and the answer is still 1, showing that the absolute cannot be increased or divided even by itself. Subtract 1 from itself, and the result is 0, showing that if the absolute were subtracted from it, would cease to exist, and there would be naught left but the infinite nothingness. Then the teachers called the attention of the pupil to the 0, or infinite nothing symbol. The 0 symbol. In itself, 0 means nothing. Multiply or divide anything by 0, and the answer is always 0. Multiply 0 by itself, and 0 remains. The infinite cannot increase itself, for in its circle it includes all possibility. But divide 0 by itself, and lo, 0 into 0 goes 1 time. The answer is 1. Showing that if the infinite be divided by itself, the absolute is found to be at its center, undisturbed, independent, and self-existent. The symbol of infinity in mathematics, however, is not 0 or unmanifest infinity, but the 8 laying on its side, which indicates manifest infinity, the symbol always indicating endless continuity of action. Now the symbol of the infinite nothing becomes infinite everything. Place a string of zeros as follows: 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, and so forth. You see, they still mean no thing. Now place 1, the symbol of the absolute, before the string, and we have 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, which we may enlarge to infinite number by the addition of zeros. Or place the absolute 1 behind the string, and we have 0.000, etc., etc., 1. A very small decimal, which may be carried to infinitesimal smallness by the addition of zeros. Thus we see, by symbols, that the action of the absolute law on the infinite nothingness produces infinite greatness, or infinite smallness. Now that you understand that infinity means the infinite possibility of things, rather than the infinite manifest thing, you may be able to see that the infinity of nothingness of the arcane teaching is not quite so irrational as it at first appeared. In order to realize the truth of the aphorism still more forcibly, let us consider what infinity, even in the ordinary use of the term, really is. You will find that all thought, if analyzed, implies the nothingness of infinity. Non-being, or nothingness, was always regarded by certain schools of the ancient Greek philosophy as existent in a philosophical sense. Empty space was considered as truly existent as the atoms which afterward appeared in space. Plato regarded empty space as the matrix, or mold, in which the universe was formed. He held that there was possible an abstract realization of pure empty space. which is nothing, the void, which is the all-containing receptacle of creative energy, and in which being, first distinguished into geometrical figures, becomes the framework of the physical world. Scotus held that since deity creates the world out of nothing, then nothing must exist as an emanation of deity. Hegel distinguished between a N-I-C-H-T, nicht, or not, and a nichts, N-I-C-H-T-S, or nothing. Theology has always held that deity created the universe from nothing, thereby implying at least a quasi-existence of infinite nothingness. Spinoza recognized an infinitely infinite, which is practically an infinite nothing. Plato said that, quote, space as a thing is incredible, difficult of explanation, most difficult to comprehend, end quote. And Zeno, the Eleatic, said, quote, if space is a thing, it must be in something, and so in space, for everything that is in something, and so in space, and so on, ad infinitum. Therefore, space is not a thing. So much for the philosophers. Let us see what our own reason informs us. Let us first examine the idea of space. Space is the mental symbol for infinity. Consider yourself as standing at a fixed point in space. Then you must realize that there exists an infinite distance or extension in space from that point in an infinite number of directions. Leaving out of consideration all objects in space, considering just pure empty space, and you must see that there is an endless extension possible in innumerable directions, extension without end. Imagine a number of miles represented in a row of figures extending from Earth to the most distant star. Then multiply that number by itself, and then the product by itself, and so on, for a time equal to the number of years since the cosmic day began. Then you would have a number of miles, the written figures of which would fill all the space that your mind is capable of even conceiving. Then think of a being traveling to the extent of that measurement. Would he then be near the end of space? No. The distance traveled by him would be as a mathematical nothing or zero compared with infinite space. No mathematician could have figured out the infinitesimal smallness of the fraction denoting the comparison, were he to have worked continually since the dawn of the cosmic day. The calculation would be endless, because the result would be infinitesimal, and at the end, he would have to place the sign of infinity back of it. Just think. To be able to travel for all eternity through space without coming to an end. You cannot come to an end of space, even in thought or imagination. Try it. You will find that think as far as you will into space, there must always be infinite space beyond that imagined point. There is no up or down in space. Space is something with its center everywhere, and its circumference nowhere. At the last, philosophy and science are compelled to hold that space is merely the possibility of infinite extension, or the infinite possibility of extension to the universal ether. In the end, ether is called the great mystery of science. It must be considered as a nothing that is a something. Excuse me. A leading scientific lecturer said and wrote recently, the ether is unconditioned, an entity of no properties but of all possibilities, or more exactly, not an entity at all, but an infinite possibility. And so, we find, even matter and things themselves arising from and being resolved into the infinite nothingness, that is also infinite possibility. Now, for a moment, let us endeavor to imagine the condition or state of the infinity of nothingness, the unmanifest cosmos during the cosmic night, and before the faintest dawn of the new cosmic day. The three cosmic principles are resolved into the condition of the unmanifest, but are not destroyed. There are nothing, but not. The three cosmic principles, again, are substance, motion, and consciousness, respectively. Substance has assumed its most subtle form, infinitely rarer and finer than the finest ether. It is practically nothing, but yet exists in latency, possibility, and promise. And motion has assumed a rate of vibration so high that it is practically at rest, although not destroyed. It is still motion in latency. And consciousness has assumed the condition of a deep unconsciousness, a profound dreamless sleep, a swoon following upon the infinite ecstasy of the supreme cosmic consciousness of the previous cosmic day. It knows nothing, is conscious of nothing, for there is but nothing of which it could be conscious or could know, for all manifestation has ceased until the dawn of a new cosmic day. It is even unconscious of the presence and power of the law, although the law still reigns over it and will awaken it once more, as it has many times before, in the eternal chain of cosmic days and nights. The cosmos sleeps in the condition of infinite nothingness, the unmanifest, the abysmal abyss, the eternal deep, the face of the waters, the void, the cosmic womb. The mother sleeps. The laws of cyclic rhythm have brought to her the rest of the cosmic night. But she will awaken and greet her Supreme Lord at the dawn of the cosmic day. From the cosmic womb will proceed the cosmic will, which will manifest the universe of universes, infinitudes of shape, form, and variety, of things, life, and being. In her existence is the promise of all that shall be throughout the ages and eons of eternities of eternities. The mother sleeps, but through the night, as through the day, the law is immutable, unchanged, absolute. That is the end of lesson 3.